Thank you very much, Vince. I'd like to start off with a poem by Lord Byron. The good old times are gone, all times when old are good. Great things have been and yet might be greater still, if mere mortals had the will to play their tricks in a wider field. You may recognize that from part of a poem by Lord Byron, the English Romantic. It's from a poem called The Bronze Age. And in many ways, to use the metaphor of the Olympics, we are in a bronze stage. There's no longer any great leaders striding our world, or even silver leaders that are giving us some meaningful direction. It is very much now a clear idea that we have to direct ourselves. And in the specifics of job search and of moving our own careers forward, we have to take more responsibility for that. And what I'd like to cover over this morning's talk is what I call the rules of three, which talk about the different things that we need to have if we're going to achieve our life's goals, if we're going to have better communications, and if we're going to have some measure of happiness. And then I'd like to go over what I consider, what research has shown, are some of the worst methods for job search, and then some of the better ones, what they have determined are the best ways to get a job and to connect. Just a little bit about myself. I am a teacher. I do ESL, I teach GED, I teach career coaching, job search programs in Oakland and various other areas. I have a background in engineering. As you can probably tell, I'm from another country. I'm from actually the land where Vince is from, a bit more to the east. But I've been in America about 30 years now. I have spent some time in a lot of different industries. I used to run a poetry group in San Francisco, running video programs. I also, as I said, was a civil engineer for a number of years as a construction inspector and as a consultant. I've worked on the oil rigs in the North Sea. I've been a teacher in West Africa. I've had a wide experience of having jobs in lots of different industries and getting jobs. So I don't come to you as some professional who went to college and got an MBA in job career search. I come as some practitioner. In fact, as I stand here talking to you now, I'm at the end of the culmination of a process I started 18 months ago to get another job. And that was because I went to somebody, I impressed them with my interest and my energy about wanting to teach. They remembered me a year later and called me up, gave me a contact, and next week I'm starting a project to do some teaching. I say all of that to say that every moment we are looking and we are putting ourselves in a position to not just get a job, but to show our value to people. Because at the end of the day, having a job, doing things, is about the skills and the values that you bring to the situation. And I think it's very important to take that position to begin with. There is no such thing as a job. There's no such thing as you are deserving of a job. There is only the values that you have, that you bring to a particular enterprise to help that enterprise make money, expand, develop. And as we get older in our lives, those values we tend to focus much more on them, and they're much more important because now they don't just include just getting a job and having something to do for 8 hours a day. They do include paying our mortgage, looking after our kids, having the vacations, having the lifestyles that we want. So in that aspect, we have to start thinking about what makes us happy. Does just going to some place every day make us happy? So I'd like to start then with the rules of three. And the first rule of three, as you probably studied in these programs before, but it's something that people just don't take very seriously. And I think particularly men, we don't take the fact that verbal ideas and the thoughts that we have, which tend to dominate, and I'm a sinner in that respect. I used to think that if I can explain something and use all the appropriate vocabulary and be very explicit about something, people would understand, and they'd go with what I did, what I said, or they would discuss it back and forth. I realize now that half the time people are not even listening. Even now, you're taking more information from the way I'm standing here, how I'm dressed and how I look, and the tonality of my voice than anything that I'm saying. That isn't to say that you're not listening, and I do appreciate your focus. But I'm just saying in the run of things, okay? And this usually happens when we just meet somebody. And of course, when we're in the job searching situation, these are very, very critical. Because again, I want to impress upon you that you are bringing your value to the situation. You are of value, okay? And in that regard, you don't want to just be throwing it in front of people, saying, oh, please, I got all these bills, I got to have a job, just give me something. You've got to go with a very positive outlook. And I can assure you, I mean, again, I've had lots of experience in lots of different areas. And when you go to these people and you tell them, hey, I can give you a service, I can help you make money, I can help you make your system more efficient, all right? They're sitting there saying, great, because that's the problem that I need solved. And for the most part, what you are doing is solving somebody else's problem, okay? So it's important to fully appreciate this, because whether we acknowledge it or not, we are making decisions every 10 seconds from the way somebody looks, the way they sound, and occasionally we're listening to what their words are. I mean, if we look at our politicians, they've mastered this. Most of the time, most of the things that they're saying are absolute nonsense, if you actually measure them up. But they still get voted in and people still keep giving them money. Why? Why do they do that? Because they're impressed by the image that they're presenting, yes? The sound, the sense of reassurance that they're offering, okay? So, in terms of communications, the critical thing in letting people know about you is to communicate well. That means that as you're talking to people and listening to people, you make sure that you are saying what you want to say and what you want to be understood, and that you check it. Did you understand what I just said? Please give me that feedback, okay? Listening is probably the #1 thing you can do as a good communicator. And it's an art form that many of us don't practice. We're certainly not taught it at school. We don't get it taught in college. And in our family setups, we're too busy doing something to practice listening. And I'll give you just one small example before I move on. When I was taking analytical algebra at college, I decided that I needed to get into this and do analytical geometry. And so I went along to the class, and it was in Laney College some years ago now, and there was about 30 kids in the class, and I was the oldest one there. And the teacher came in, and he would just say, hi, good morning, everybody, and he would start with all the equations. I don't know if you're familiar with analytical geometry, but it's a combination of algebra and trigonometry. And it's very, very confusing, okay? I had no idea what was going on, but I just sat there. About halfway through the semester, there was only 2 of us left. There was this young kid who kept arguing with the teacher, all right, because he knew more about it, and me. And I just sat there, just looking at these guys, and I just was determined to turn up for this class, and try to absorb it, almost like osmosis, just to sort of sit there. At the end of the semester, the teacher came up to me and said, look, you didn't do very good in any of your exams, but I'm going to give you an A for effort. Now I want you to go back and do algebra and all the other classes. I said, thank you very much. So that's on my record now. But the point is that I persisted. I just stuck at it, okay? And one of the interesting things about it, when I did actually go back to algebra, I really understood it because I knew what was going on. I knew what this is all about. For me, one of the important things I think that we all need to understand is how do we personally learn, all right? I personally learn by seeing the big picture. I want to study mathematics, I read the history of maths, and I think, oh, okay, that's why they're doing it. Okay, great. Now I can get into all the calculation, okay? So it's very important, again, for us individually to understand the method by which we acquire information, okay? This is one of those methods.